In this video, I'm joined by Angus. We're going to be talking about the current state of ecom, particularly around ecom community growth. It's becoming massive in Australia. It's actually not as big in the US and the UK, but I'm sure it will be. It'll come to them too, where there's almost a segment of the market that's currently being eaten up by these community groups. And there's a lot of anti-agency narratives being pushed behind them because I think it gets you good CAC for the group. But I don't know, let's dive into things. What are your thoughts, Angus?
Well, I mean, I know for a fact that I think there's probably a good two to there's probably a good 4 to 5 thousand brands in these community groups in Australia. And I think the benefit of them is they do have mass appeal. Like, someone who's doing 0 to 20K a month, it's a worthwhile investment some of the time. And just like it is for bigger brands too. So it's like they can target such a massive part of the market with success.
Yeah. And I think it's a great business model because you shift accountability to the individual that's in the course as well, which I actually kind of do like. But I think there's value in the fact that you can get insights from coaches or courses or however the community is structured, because I know they all structure slightly differently, in terms of what's actually working. That's kind of the value prop of an agency, at least I'd say it would apply to email and paid ads, which is that we have a ton of accounts. And so we have a ton of data. And so we can see what's working and then we'll translate that into your particular account. And so you get a data advantage by working with an agency as long as they're doing that effectively on the back end. And that's essentially the same value prop that you can push within a community. And I think there's value there. I think lack of differentiation between strategies being tried starts to become an issue. It's like if everyone is doing the exact same thing across 2,000 ecom brands, do you erode you call it arbitrage that exists within the market? That's kind of how ideas work, right? Which is you come up with a unique idea that no one else is doing. That gives you some kind of like exploit in the market. You get a little bit of extra performance. You get some extra efficiency. Call it like, as an example, plain text email, like bang a year ago. Like that's an opportunity. No one's doing it. You do it. You can actually get some cut through and it can work for a bit, but then everyone does it. And then all of that advantage kind of just disappears.
Yeah, but that's the issue comes, I think, as much as it is a good business model, the issue comes in the scalability of them as well, because they run lean. Like many of them have a handful of coaches, and I know that each brand in them will have like personalized coaches or they'll have like one-to-one coaching sessions, but there's no way that they have time like with 15 to 20 coaches maybe and 3,000 brands to sit down and make like personalized plans or like actually find differentiation and cut through for each of those brands. So naturally what ends up happening is they go like, this is the status delta of what's working in ecom right now. Like our top 10 brands are pushing these styles of ads, these types of emails, this copy, these landing page styles. And then every other brand, like you'd be silly not to be every other brand going like, well, if that's what they're doing, I'm going to do it. And it's not that you would be silly, because I actually disagree with that. I think the smart brands are being still differentiating, but most brands in there who are paying for this service and who look up to the coaches and who trust these bigger brands and who see an 8-figure brand in the community having massive wins off scaling an ad format, they go, well, why would I do anything different? I'm just going to copy them. And then before you know it, you scroll through your Instagram feed and every single ecom brand is running the exact same ad.
Yeah, 100%. I think for those brands that can't afford an agency or multiple agencies to be able to manage like the hyper specialized skills like email and paid ads, I think it does make sense, like that 0 to 20. I think it also makes complete sense for like 20 onwards, because something we were talking about earlier was that you want to know what your competitors are doing, right? If everyone in Australia is consuming this content and getting access to this information, you kind of want access to the info. But where I kind of hit my head against a wall is that I don't think running your own paid ads in-house as a founder doing like $2 to $3 million a year is the highest return on investment for you. I think there's way more higher leverage activities that you could be doing than being on the cutting edge of knowing which Advantage Plus optimization setting to have on an ad. Like, I just don't think that is going to move your brand to $10 million a year. And I also don't think that you would be able to, and this might be a limiting belief I'm putting on some people, but I don't think you would be able to be as good as someone who just does paid media in ad accounts across 10 to 15 brands and has been doing that for the past 5 years. And it's all they do. And that's all they think about.
Yeah, I mean, I compare it to an alternative that though is I compare it to say your average like drop shipper who just like scales stores like purely based on media buying. I think if you're the only caveat to that I would say was that if you were entering ecom already with a really dialed in skill set of media buying, like say for yourself, say you tomorrow said I want to start an ecom brand, you could probably run up your own ads until 8 figures, 9 figures, like and beyond, and you could probably run your own ad account forever. And you would probably have higher leverage in hiring someone else to focus on product, branding, design, logistics, supply chain. But for most founders entering ecom, like for 90% of them, I'd say at least I've interacted with, their specialties lie in the product and the design and the supply and all the things that come with creating an idea of what to sell in the first place, not the media buying. So it is counterintuitive to then spend a massive chunk of your time trying to become like an A plus media buyer.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny timing because I did an audit yesterday for a couple hours on a Facebook ad account. It was I think I was spending $250,000, maybe 300,000 a month. So this would be like a massive account for us. And I said, no, we're not taking the account because you're an elite media buyer. It was very clear that this guy had been drop shipping and media buying for like 9 years, started this like supplements brand. And for context, this dude is running 20 tests a week in the ad account. He's launching like 6 different landing pages a week. He's testing 100 ads a week across 4 different ad accounts. And I'm like, yeah, look, keep doing it yourself. Like this is not something you should outsource. You are excellent at this. Like this is the leverage in the business. I think what you should look at is someone who better understands product and get them in the business, because you're currently limited based on 2 real hero products. And it kind of looks like he's hitting a limit on how much you could spend through just 2 products here. So get someone who better understands your target demographic and look at building out product and go in that direction. But outsourcing the thing that has made you successful, I agree with you. It's probably not the best idea, but those are so rare, by the way. Like, people don't get into ecom because they do ads. People get into ecom because they love product.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and you'd find that for 95% of people every day of the week. But I mean, there is obviously the exception to that. But like, I still think someone could probably, like, in saying that, if I don't know much about media buying. Like, I've run basic ads for myself and other people. If I was starting an ecom brand tomorrow, I would probably join something like EE and teach myself like enough media buying to at least have a good understanding, or to get myself to a point where I could profitably hire an agency and spend my time doing other things. So I definitely think it's like a good leverage opportunity for many people. And there's still so much to learn in those communities. I have calls with brands all the time who are doing like 0 to 50K a month, and they ask for audit advice or something. And I'll just be like, you don't obviously have the cash flow to hire agencies. It's probably not the best move for you right now. It's like, go join a coaching program, and I guarantee like you'll learn a few things, and that's probably the best move for you right now. And then you touch base with some agencies in 3 to 6 months time.
100%. And I just finished like our own internal course for Google Facebook ads for clients. Like when you onboard as a client now, you get redirected to the school community to actually watch through like the 30 hours of content or whatever that I put together. And that's like completely under the fact that if you are an e-commerce brand and paid ads, and let's say email as well, are your primary revenue drivers, you better understand how to open up the ad account. You better understand what like ROAS is. You better understand how to actually look at the analytics within Klaviyo and within these platforms. Like that's kind of a baseline non-negotiable. And if you don't know how to open up an ad account, join a community group immediately, or start watching YouTube videos and learning immediately. And I think that's like the core value prop under these communities that is like actually incredible. And I think it's why it gets so much cut through, is it's like, hey, Facebook is driving 90% of your revenue, correct? You don't even know how to run a Facebook ad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've actually had better experience with clients who are doing bigger numbers, like, 7 to 8 figures a year, and B, who are in community groups. So they get some good feedback from community groups, so they know what a good ad account, a good email account should look like. Then they cross-reference that with the work we're doing and go, okay, these guys definitely know what they're doing. Or even at times they come to us and challenge us with like, oh, hey, like my coaching group told me that we should do this and that this week, like, or we should do this and that in our calendars. What do you think? And then I can actually either agree or push back and educate the client on like, no, this is why I think that's a bad idea. And it ends up like a lot of the time sparking like good open conversation. But there is, on the other hand, a lot of clients who I've dealt with who go like, my coaching group, I had my coaching session last week, and he said like, we need to set up this like segmenting strategy, or we need to do this with our like subject lines. Like one thing that happened during Black Friday was like, there was this myth going around in the coaching groups where it was like, instead of sending your email at 6 p.m., if you send it at 6:02 p.m., your open rates are going to skyrocket because you've like come in as the last email in the inbox of everyone sending at 6 p.m. And I was just like, that can't be the key insight that you're paying for in these community groups. Like that can't be the biggest takeaway, because that can be like, that's a crock of shit.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think like I was thinking that understanding how to run your ad account is critical for being able to vet agencies. And like, there's this saying that another agency owner told me once, who runs like a $20 million agency. And he was like, I asked him for hiring advice. And he said, you never want to hire someone where it's their first job because they don't know how good they have it. And then he also said, it's just like clients. You never want to have a client that's never worked with another agency before, because they have no idea how good you actually are compared to the market standard. And I thought about it for a while, and I was like, it is so true that clients that don't understand anything to do with ads, or like have a very limited understanding and have just never worked with an agency before, it's generally the worst working relationships out of any type of like characteristic of what a client could be, because they have no idea what you're doing. They don't see the value. They don't understand that what you're doing actually is unique within the market and has an edge. And then they don't know how bad the average agency is, particularly within Australia. So they hop ship to another agency and just things go straight down.
Yeah, or they have a lot of preconceived ideas too. Like I do think one benefit of the coaching programs is at least get someone on the right path. But because I've definitely dealt with clients where like they've done a good job at scaling their store to where it is now using their own knowledge, their own testing, their own experiences, and they might hit like 6-figure months. But it comes to a point then where they hire an agency for the first time, and all of a sudden, like, we're boots on ground every day in email accounts, and we tell someone like, hey, we think you should, this is what we want to do in the first 2 weeks. And it takes them by storm. They're like, oh, what? That doesn't sound like what I usually do. Like, oh, like in my experience, we do this. And I'm like, without sounding rude, you run one email account, we run 50. Like, you kind of got to like trust us. So there is like, when you do work solo and you have no one working under you, you're not consuming educational content, you're not working with agencies, you're not in coaching groups, like you are going to form a lot of like preconceived ideas and confirmation bias, which are going to like impact your ability to kind of have a breakthrough moment.
100%. So I think like the conclusion of our opinions push back, if you don't think this, is that we actually think they're great for, number one, being able to learn the tools and have a bit of an understanding so that you can vet agencies well. Number two, it puts you on like the right path. And so you get good advice and good direction, despite it being very high level and applicable to everyone. It's not tailored and specific to you, and it's not going to create specific differentiation in your market. However, it likely isn't the solution to long-term growth. And the narrative of you should never hire an agency is probably a detrimental one, considering that an agency is going to provide specialized talent for that specific problem that's just working directly on your account, not across thousands. And number three, it's going to create some kind of differentiation where you're not just running the same ads as everyone else.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely want to touch on that point of how bad that take is on like don't hire an agency, because like this is the question I have in my mind to like a lot of them who push this narrative. If they, and I know a lot of the people who run successful coaching programs do so because they ran successful e-com stores. But in their experience as e-com owners, if you gave them a 10K budget for marketing labor, like boots on ground, who's managing your ads, who's managing your email, you gave them a 10K budget, which is probably reasonable for most ecom brands, even doing up to like 300, 400K a month. Like their budgets for agencies or staff working on their marketing accounts probably aren't more than like, maybe at 500K a month, it's up to 30K or something. I don't know the actual numbers. But if you said to those guys, like you have 10 to 20K to spend on your A team to run your marketing for your ecom store, I guarantee they're either stacking that with the best agencies, or they're running their ads themselves because that's their skill set, or they're hiring in-house specialists on like 6-figure salaries. Like there's no way they're going to a coaching program and trying to teach themselves. There's zero way those founders are doing that. Like they're 100% bringing in labor. And then the question comes, well, it's like, what's their actual take then? Like, because they don't think there's no way they think the founder's going to be sending emails, writing emails, and doing ads. So the alternative is you're hiring an in-house specialist. And unless you're willing to hire a media buyer for a 10K a month full-time salary, and then an email expert for a 10K a month full-time salary, which is like the going rate for good full-time talent these days, what's the alternative? Like it kind of makes agency look like a very good option.
Yeah. What about hey, I've got a 10K budget. I'm doing 3 mil a year. Why don't I just hire a marketing manager and they can just do it all?
Well, there's no way you're finding a marketing manager for 10K a month who can do Facebook, email, Google, TikTok, whatever other channels they're advertising on. There's no way. If there's someone in the world who is good enough to run a $3 million a year brand to a high level on all those channels, and they only want a 6-figure salary, like I'd hire them tomorrow. Like that's a very rare find.
Yeah, that they would just start their own ecom brand that have the entire skill set to do so.
Exactly. That's what, yeah. So I've dealt with a lot of marketing managers who are good. Like I've seen 8-figure companies who, before we come in, they do have a marketing manager still running their email, and it's quality. Like they do a decent job. But when you're an 8-figure brand, like I was saying for example, this brand they're doing 8 figures. They were bringing in about 25% attribution through Klaviyo, which is a decent number by any means, like better than most brands, just run by their marketing manager. But they had holes everywhere. And I said, like, we're probably going to be able to help you improve 10 to 20% here. But as an 8-figure brand, a 10 to 20% boost on a quarter of your sales is massive. It's like a 60 to 100K a month swing in attribution. So it's like the scale matters even more at that level. Like if you can squeeze an extra 10% out by having an expert or a specialist agency on, like that is always going to be worth it.
100%. Yeah, I think you do get to, well, at least all the really large brands that we work with, they have incredibly competent marketing managers. Like I actually haven't dealt with any incompetent marketing managers on brands doing over like 10 mil a year, 15 mil a year. And then they are leveraging like literally like 6 agencies. They've got a CRO specialist, they've got an email specialist, they've got a paid ad specialist. And I actually think it makes sense at that scale, given that the agencies are actually competent and vetted well, which if it's a really good marketing manager, they should be able to do that to a degree. And then you're getting like a 3-4% squeeze on efficiency out of all of these people, which is paying for them and beyond at that kind of volume.
I don't think the battle is with agencies. The battle's with bad agencies. It's like the reality is like there's a low barrier to entry in the agency world. Like there's a lot of people out there who are running up agencies who are doing bad work. But the battle's not with like agencies. Like agency, in my opinion, like I have an accounting background, and so like I get pretty in the nitty gritty with some of the numbers, especially with my clients. And it's like no matter which way you look at it, having a good agency on a retainer is going to be cheaper and more cost effective for any brand doing at least 7 figures best cost-effective option by far. Better than an employee, better than freelancers, better than trying to do it yourself. Like a good agency, that is. So the battle doesn't become like, if coaching programs rolled out a segment on how to find a good agency, like that would be probably the best case scenario, because that's what people actually need.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, it's just all the bad agencies just ruining it for everyone. And then these people churn through like 3 to 4 of them because they don't understand how to properly vet. And then it ruins their entire perception of the space.
Yeah. Where do you think it goes though? Like, I think they're scaling. Like, coaching programs are becoming more and more popular. Like, I know some of the bigger brands I work with have left coaching programs and become more adverse to them after Q4 strategies. They did definitely realize, like, well, I'm a brand who's doing 8 figures and trying to scale. Like, why do I want to be doing the same thing as fucking Bob, who's doing like 5K a month selling like books? Like, it's there was definitely like lack of like differentiation in the strategy there. They were very good with all the numbers and stuff and helping set targets and forecasting, but like, I think the reality is these coaching programs are scaling, and you're probably still going to see way more and more like of that, what we've spoken about before, sheep mentality, where people are just going to continue to pump out the same crap, and the brands who do differentiate are probably going to like really find an edge in the market.
Yeah, low key, I actually think it's probably good for the space, like net overall, because I think that if people go through the coaching program, I would assume they are now better at vetting agencies naturally because they know a little bit about the skill and what it is. So hopefully that just disadvantages all shit agencies straight away. It's just like the bad agencies aren't going to get as many clients because people are actually generally a little bit more competent across the whole market, and they know how to actually identify what's going right and what's going wrong. And then I think that will just drive more business up the funnel to the people that are actually competent, know what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think like anyone who then hires a good agency is really going to feel like the snowball effect. But I mean, there's still, though, in those coaching programs, like, I know we've said a lot of good things about them, but I still have like so many qualms with them. I've been, a lot of my clients who are in them send me the email work from time to time. And I have like a bit of an ongoing thing with a lot of these clients where it's like, we both sort of laugh at like how dismal some of like the strategies are. Like, some of the segmenting strategies that were given during Q4 were like completely made up. Like, they gave out like a recommended email calendar for Black Friday, and it was like, there was no actual thought process or strategy behind the cadence. There was no actual thought process or strategy behind the segmenting. Like, as far as I've been doing email marketing for 6 or 7 years, I was looking at the plan and I was like, I don't see the basis of this at all. It's just made up. Like, they're just making shit up. And I was like, a lot of brands take that and run with it as gospel. And on the other hand, I audit so many accounts on the email side that are in these community groups, and they have none of the core email flows set up at all, let alone to a quality level. Campaign cadence is bad. Designs are bad. It's almost like, I look at this and I'm like, at least on the email side, what are they teaching you? Like, where's the accountability? Like, you're paying for this group and your email marketing is crap. Like, maybe it's better on the ad side, but I don't have experience to comment on that.
I've seen all the account structures that they all recommend and run. And like, I have qualms as well with a lot of it. I actually have now an internal video that I just send to clients where they say, hey, why aren't we running this particular community's Facebook account structure? And I've already got a video that like breaks down exactly why I disagree with particular things, why we've split tested particular things that they're running, and they've just copy pasted it and rolled it out. And it's never been updated. I've actually never seen any of these Facebook structures updated over time, which also doesn't make sense when the platform is constantly changing and evolving. You would think that there would be like rigorous testing of your own like foundational thoughts. But then I also do think, which is a bit of a side note, that you're putting a lot of accountability and work onto a business owner that's doing 1 to 2 mil a year. A business owner that's at 1 to 2 mil revenue, I don't know if you like actually you would experience it. 90 hours a week, or you don't grow. Like that's just and the reason why you won't grow is because there are other people that will do that, and they'll be like, you are competing against other individuals at that scale. And so you kind of need to outwork everyone else to be able to scale. And then you come in and you say, hey, by the way, also run all of your ads, learn creative, and also run all your own emails and do all the training courses, make sure your flows are in place. It is a ton of work to throw on one core founder, that they're probably just going to pick and play, like choose some stuff and try to run it. And it's going to be like to a degree overwhelming, which is why you probably see some Klaviyo accounts and you're like, wait, they went through the program and they're not even running basic standard flows. And it's like, yeah, because they watched the vid at 12 o'clock at night and then they went, I don't have time for this.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that.
100%. Like, and I even think like of myself, I told you, like I've been doing this for 6 or 7 years now. And it's like, I'm still not like a great email designer. Like I'm better than someone who doesn't know how to design emails, but like every day of the week, I'm hiring a really good in-house designer to do that for me. And that's a cost that I need to chin. Like there's no way that an e-com founder, and maybe people will say this is a limiting belief as well, but I just don't see a world where an e-com founder can juggle all those things to a high level. It's just not like good leverage. Like there's no way they're designing a good email, making a good email flow structure, having the time to write all the copy, playing a campaign calendar. On the side of that, by the way, they're running their whole ad account on Google and Facebook. Like how many, like what, they got 4 million hours in a week or something. Like it's just not doable.
Yeah. And like I will stress again, I made like a full video on this on the Blue Sense YouTube channel, which is the highest return on investment activity is not running your own ads. Unless you are literally the best at it, which we added that clause. The highest, in my opinion, return on investment activities, based on working with over 200 e-commerce brands and looking at the ones that actually scale fast, is those that invest heavily into product and heavily into differentiation through their marketing calendar and setting up connections to culture that otherwise don't exist, right? Like if you're selling matcha tea and then someone else is selling matcha tea, why would they, like, what is different about you? It's a commoditized product. I could start a matcha brand tomorrow. I would have the same margins as you. I would have the same website as you. I would have the same ads as you. Why, like, it is almost the level of drop shipping where any kind of margin that's remaining will just get squeezed out by CAC. And so if you actually want to scale to revenue heights or go past what the competitors are doing, you need some degree of differentiation in some way. And is that through a like product portfolio that makes you different? Or is it through the fact that you're consistently connecting to influencers and running whitelisting? And like, that's how you're kind of building branding with that specific like messaging. Are you doing some kind of like even in-person pop-ups if you're in clothing, right? It's like that stuff that makes you different and builds a brand rather than, hey, I just shove matcha through meta ads and hope for the best and hope my CAC equals some profit at the end of the day.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story because I think another thing that you can do very well is like, you know, be a manager. Like at the being the one steering the ship, like as much as you were saying, like it's on a marketing manager to squeeze the most efficiency out of like the agencies. Well, it's on the founder to squeeze the most efficiency out of like the team as well. Like I was speaking to a client of mine, Sean from Lilo Active, an 8-figure activewear brand. He's happy to share that out of Perth, and like he was telling me like every like month, once a week or once fortnight or something, he'll go down into the warehouse and spend time with the picking and packing teams. Is like try find insights that like aren't discovered in Shopify trends and like things that aren't easily identifiable on a graph. Like he'll talk to the team, see what they're, you know, obviously data is always king, but he said he's found some of the coolest insights that have led to best product development from being on the ground in the warehouse with his team for 1 to 3 hours on a given day, on a random day of the month, talking about like what are they seeing moving more, like what products are they seeing combined, like, you know, which colorways are shifting the best. Like sure, he could go be an expert and run Shopify reports and maybe get that, but not when it's changing on a random day-to-day basis or something. Like little edges like that you get over, like motivating and pushing your team to be the best, but also like finding edges in the product and the market. Like when he told me that, I was so taken back because the rate that they're scaling, I was like, I wouldn't know any founder that's gone into their warehouse and just like sat down and chat with the team and packed some orders for 3 hours. Like it is little things like that I think can go a long way with like helping you really find your edge in your product and he's not sitting in the ad account like trying to spin up a copy headline, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think like a really good piece of advice in service-based businesses, and it probably translates to e-com based on the story you just said, is that whatever's scalable is not scalable, and that's not an opportunity. Because if it can scale easily, anyone can just grab it and scale it, and then all the opportunity is lost. The stuff that truly like reaps rewards is stuff that you can't scale. Like if there's something that is unscalable and you can figure out how to 2 to 3x that, then that's where you're actually going to see proper reward within the market. And that probably applies into e-com as well in some way, in terms of those founders that are actually seeing success. They're doing like unique stuff, and they're approaching things and building a business that actually sits differently within the market, as opposed to, as I said, like I come from dropshipping. So I spent 2 years just dropshipping all day. And so I've it's been hard for me to even think this way. It's only like been a recent prior 6-12 months in which I've started thinking about differentiation within markets as we've started working with bigger and bigger brands. Because when it comes to small brands, it is all the same, which is that any brand doing 0 to 2 mil, it's grab a product off Alibaba or go and source one that and make something new, and then just try sell it through ads. And it's effectively drop shipping, except you're holding inventory. And there's no core differentiation. Sometimes people might throw on like, oh yeah, we have free shipping and we give $1 to a charity every purchase. That's also commoditized. Everyone's doing that stuff. And so that also doesn't stand out. And so you're kind of just trying to find products that you can sell and end up with a margin on it. But you need to more so think about like, how is this? Let's say you do have an opportunity and you jump on something and it's not saturated, and you get it to 3-4 mil, which I could probably list 5 brands right now which would have done that for. They had a cool, unique product. They went to 3 to 4 mil, and they're like, hey, what's next? How do we get to 10? It's like, you get to 10 not by cranking ad spend to $1 million a day. Like that is not your solution. The solution is to go and build out a product portfolio, have some kind of product turnover and like unique launches, and build out a marketing calendar that connects to moments in culture or has these events that differentiate you from other brands. That's what's going to excel you to 10 mil. And it starts to sound fluffy, which is why I used to hate it, but it's like, like the truth.
Well, it's a really good, like, I've watched a bit of Davey Fogarty's stuff. Obviously he runs his own community group now as well, but like one thing that he was always really big on back in the day of like being in the weeds of Woody was that he was striking up deals and partnerships with those things like Warner Bros, Harry Potter, like, you know, whatever other sort of like pop culture thing he could find, and strike up like a really cool deal with to release like limited edition products. And then he said that would like go and pump into new segments of the market. And it's like, I'll tell you what he wasn't doing. He wasn't like sitting in his fucking bedroom, like clicking around like budgets on Facebook or like writing email copy. Like he had people in place, and I know he had agencies running his email and SMS that he trusted and built good relationships with. And it's like, sure, maybe as he approached 9 figures, like he was able to get the budget to bring some people in house or something, but like he was not doing it. Like from a very early on stage, I guarantee he was not like churning that copy. Like he was out there in the weeds, like building those relationships and like finding those product differentiation moments.
Yeah, like that is the best example of like what I'm trying to say. And I tell this to clients a lot, and it's going to be an automated video that the second clients at 2 to 3 mil, they get this bid, which is that all the biggest brands in Australia on direct to consumer ecom, if you like somehow find them, sort by top 100, take out the big tech and take out the groceries, and you get left with a list that is like 70% fashion. And it's like, why is it all fashion? Well, number one, obviously they have a big total addressable market. But number two is that there is an enormous product portfolio that turns over constantly. And so because of that, you constantly reach new demographics, you enable LTV, and you allow multiple hero products to exist that can hold spend. And so rather than just trying to push matcha and try to scale this thing to $4,000 a day in spend, which is like impossible, you have 150 products that you only need to get them all to like $20 a day, and it stacks up to $4,000 a day in spend.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Like, never really thought of it like that, to be honest. Like the product turnover and the seasonality. Like a lot of brands definitely have that in their favor. Like I know like some really good supplement brands who do that really well too, but it requires like being in the weeds. Like some of the best supplement founders I work with, like they're working on product and formulations like all day. Like there's science nerds. Like they're in there like trying to work out like, how are they going to crank a pre-workout so it's going to be better than old mate down the road. Like they're constantly in there, like iterating, and like that's how they often scale. And then another supplement owner I know who has a few stores, like he's been successful in that. He then found a way to like really smartly roll out like activewear that's attached to the brand, and it just ripped. And it's like the last thing he's doing is like sitting in these things, like being in the weeds. Like he's just so good at finding what your strength is and leaning into that. And I hate the fact that we are in an e-com market that is like very discouraging of that trait. And it's like, you're encouraging people to spend time trying to leverage things that they have no edge in. They have no personal edge in it. Like, why would you try to like half of being involved, 90% of being a business owner is like trying to find edges everywhere. Like who's the best person for that? Who's the best customer service person? Who's the best account manager because they're great with people? And it's like, why would you go find someone who's a great account manager and people person and say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask them to build out like AI automations and like try learn to code. It's like, you're just never going to do that. Like it's the opposite of like what any smart founder would be doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, but I mean, we definitely have a pretty set stance on it. I feel like it's pretty lenient though. Like you said, I definitely respect what they're doing and think they have a place in the market, but I think their marketing strategies make them a lot more relied upon than they should be.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's just a product of, hey, CAC's law. If you run that kind of messaging, like it's the reason why the big paid ads agencies that print leads through meta ads say how they like 1000x revenue, or you get a free $5,000 back. It's the same thing. It's like, that's not what they're delivering, but it drops CVCs, it drops CAC.
And they can also do that because I see you've got Hormozy's book behind you, I think. Like they can also do that because like the likelihood of success or the perception of the likelihood of success is so high because of how many people are in it. So they've almost like benefited from the snowball of how many members are joining. Like you've got 2,000 brands in some of these groups. It's like, if you're a brand on the outer, you're like, well, everyone else is in it. Like, of course it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is like kind of the snowball of an agency as well, which is you get logos and then you build credibility and then CAC goes down. And then that's why you see these agencies kind of go exponential. And they actually were bad the whole time, but they got a couple lucky logos, which quickly propelled them. And then they come down just as fast as they went up.
Yeah. Or they sell at the peak and then they come down crashing.
Or they don't sell at the peak and they sell 4 years after for a terrible val.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, either way, get what they deserve in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Is there anything else you'd add?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that was a good yap sesh. It was very solid. I think we covered most of the bases.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't intro you either on this video. So Angus does email. He's got an agency, works with over 50 e-com brands. I'll put your LinkedIn and website in the description.
Appreciate it. Beauty.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Angus.